joining us is broadcaster and commentator Esther Krakue. Esther, we've been talking about this upcoming coronation for so long and it's finally happened. What moment was the standout for you yesterday?
Oh, there were so many standout moments. I know that social media I thought one of the standout moments was actually Penny Mordaunt, who held the scythe for, basically throughout the entirety of the coronation. And it was apparently 8 kilos. She did all of that in heels for hours, which was very impressive. And I have to say she looked fantastic. And as leader of the House of Commons, it was obviously her role to do that. So that was definitely a standout. Obviously, the crowning was amazing, the crowning of King Charles and now Queen Camilla. But there were so many standout moments. I thought William and his father, they had such a tender moment where the king thanked his son. And it was just, there were so many beautiful moments in there. I can't pin it down to just one.
Yeah, and look, there was obviously plenty going on for quite a long period of time, but I just felt like I was captivated throughout. Now, Let's talk about Harry. As we suspected, his trip to the UK was very short, wasn't it?
Yes, he was only technically here for about 28 hours. He landed, came to the ceremony, and then left, very promptly. So he was back in California within sort of about 36 hours, which is what we suspected already. We knew that it wasn't going to be some sort of warm reunion or the chance to mend all the problems within the family. But I'm glad he did that because, one, it didn't draw too much attention away from who the coronation was actually about. But also, I think it was the dignified thing to do. Many people have very different views on his kind of exposés and his book and the kind of utterings of his wife. But the reality is, at the end of the day, the coronation wasn't about him, and he had to be as respectful as possible if he was going to be there. Many people questioned why he was even there, because considering he came in and left so quickly. But clearly, it was a deep wish of King Charles, his father, for his son to be there, even though they're not on the best of terms at the moment. So I'm very happy with the way everything panned out. I'm happy that he came in quickly and left and didn't cause too much of a commotion. He came by himself. He wasn't in any of his military garb because he wasn't entitled to it. He's made his choice and he's left the royal family as an active working royal, and those are the consequences that come with it.
But as a consequence of the trip being so short, we understand he won't be in any of the official or any of the family photographs. Is that right?
Yes, he won't be in any of the photographs. He wasn't on the balcony. He wasn't meant to be on the balcony anyway. But he really didn't spend much time to actually, have any sorts of interactions with anyone in the royal family, at least to a significant degree. So he certainly won't be in the photos in that way. What I will say is I think is a missed opportunity for his children, because what I did find interesting is that he insisted on, giving Archie and Lilibet their birthright in the form of their titles. But on an event of their grandfather becoming king, they weren't even present. And I thought that was quite a missed opportunity. I suspect it's because, it was Archie's birthday, as they said, or the fact that maybe Meghan doesn't want to come to the UK because there might have been a queue of people waiting for her with rotten tomatoes. But the reality is, a lot of their actions has had negative repercussions on their children. And the fact that they really effectively don't know an entire half of their identity. They don't know half of their family. They don't have any sort of relationship with their cousins. I think the whole thing was very sad. But again, this is what happens when adults make certain decisions that negatively affect their children.
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it? But look, we understand that Charles had invited Harry to the family lunch. I know he had to get back for Archie's birthday. The invite itself is unsurprising, but are you surprised that Harry didn't attend?
I'm not surprised that Harry didn't attend, because I can imagine it would have been as awkward for him as for the other attendees who were there. You have to remember that in his book Spare, he really left no stone unturned. He really invaded the privacy of very many people. I can't imagine anything more awkward than being in a lunch with people staring daggers at you because of the kind of horrific things you've written about them in your tell-all biography. So I think it would have been equally uncomfortable for the attendees as it would have been for Prince Harry to be there, certainly for his brother and his sister-in-law. So while I understand why King Charles extended that invitation towards him, I think it was in everyone's best interest that he didn't attend.
And do you think that with Harry getting so little media attention on the day of the coronation, do you think that in future that will help to mend the relationship? I think it would have been worse if he had been a distraction.
I don't think it will have a very significant effect on the relationship between the Sussexes and the royal family, just because I think it's too far gone. The fact that the king's son played such a miniature role, effectively no role in the coronation, and his role was as minimized as it could be. I mean, he effectively played the same role as Prince Andrew, the disgraced prince, which is really saying something, because to be relegated that far down the totem pole just shows how far the relationship between the Sussexes and the royal family has broken down. So I don't really think this will go anywhere in terms of mending their relationship. From what I understand, Prince William is not very keen on having any sort of interactions with Harry, especially not on a one-on-one basis. That we know for sure from the reports that we've been hearing from biographies and from Buckingham Palace. And the reality is there is actually a security element to being alone with the Sussexes at all, from Netflix cameras to the potential of being bugged by media houses. It really is, aside from the fact that it's uncomfortable, it's also unsafe. There should be a level of privacy and decorum that people should expect in an interaction, and it's very clear that the Sussexes have very little interest in maintaining that. So I don't think it would be anyone's best interest for them to even be alone and to have a private conversation, because the chances are that those conversations wouldn't stay private for very long.
Now, we've got less than a minute, but just very quickly, Harry sat in the third row behind Princess Anne, and it seemed that he was obscured by the feather on her hat. Now, Twitter is calling it Feathergate, but surely that's just a coincidence.
I would like to think so. I'm not sure Princess Anne has the sense of humour to have her plumage strategically in front of Prince Harry's face. I'm sure that is just a coincidence. But it is funny. Social media tends to take a life of its own with these matters. But I do think it is quite symbolic in the sense that he really has been cast out and overshadowed by more relevant, more hardworking, less whingy members of the royal family. I hope this opportunity or this occasion was an opportunity for him to reflect on what he's lost and what his actions have cost him, but I'm not holding my breath.
Thank you, Esther. And look, Esther, I've got to go to a break, but thank you for joining us.